the button ready for go live on the standard counter, and obviously it didn't trigger. Then went and got dinner with my wife, which was great. You get it. I got to be honest, okay? Okay. Here, I guess I got to sit in the middle for the sake of this. So, I've been trying to look for something fun to say to start this show off because we generally do, right? Even if it's funny, even if it's laugh at the Bears, even if it's existence is pain, even if it's get really angry. You know what I'm saying? Like there's usually something that we can do so that we can try to have a little bit of fun. Because let's be honest here, okay? I've been doing videos and streams since 2018, and they have gotten progressively less fun to cover. We've got 2020 or 2019, where the season was over. Not over, but everything looked really sad and grim by around the middle to early part of the season. Then you go to 2020, which was sort of just a lost year. You started the season waiting for Mitch to get benched. He got benched. Things got like better, but not good. And the Bears managed to limp into the playoffs with Trubisky and get popped in a Saints game that was everything we expected on offense and a phenomenal defensive performance that kept it tight until it wasn't, as is the Bears' way. Then you go to 2021, where we just waste everybody's time, right? We know that this season is dead and buried, but it's not. So then they give Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy one more year in 20 or in that was 21. You're right. Yeah, that was terrible. That was just really was a waste of everybody's time. Then we get to 2022, where the team's really bad. They decide to tank. Probably the right decision. I still stand on that, but it made for a boring year, right? Then we get to 2023, and the Bears start 0-4, and they manage to lose in every which way possible. And you could say what you will about maybe you found some fun and some enjoyment in a 7-6 finish to the season, but it was like literally waiting until the end because you can't win a marathon in the first quarter of the season, but you could sure lose one. And the Bears did. So think of it to 2024, sort of the build up to all of it. And it's been bad. Shocker. Team goes from 4-2 to acting like they're 1-7. And then they lose a game that a 1-7 team would lose, right? And I got to go. And I'll be honest, I had a lot of fun, right? Like, if you ask me about a personal level, I had a lot of fun at the game. Going to football games is fun. Being a Bears fan, when you're not the content creator part, it's more fun. But getting up here trying to talk about it, I know what comments I'm going to see. TB17, I know what you're going to say. And I'll tell you that you don't care that I think the situation looks pretty much untenable. It doesn't matter. I think Caleb looks fried. Looks like he's playing, like he's thinking. Looks like he's got no feel whatsoever for the game. DJ looks like he doesn't give a damn. Keenan can't separate for any bit of what he's worth. Rome is a mistake waiting to happen, either a mental mistake or a physical mistake. And then we finally turn to Cole Kmet, and as much as I love him, he's not going to separate against man coverage against a nickel corner. And there's just nobody on the Bears right now that's going to win every down. Most guys aren't. So eventually, Brandon Ayuk's going to lose. Eventually, old Deebo Samuel is going to lose. Eventually, CMC is going to lose a rep. That's why you got other options. But in the Bears' case, they seem to have probably one of the worst rates, at least it feels like, of the first read being open. Not that that matters to the people who it's not going to matter to. And, I mean, here we are. And here's the worst part, okay? We've been here before. We've been around this block a couple times, haven't we? Like, the most honest thing I can tell you, but probably the most depressing, is this is a hard road back for Caleb. I've got my priors. I think he's sick. I think if he was in near any other uniform, he'd be looking great. And I don't have any misgivings about saying that, right? Whether it's Bears offensive ecosystem, which has been bad, Bears culture top down, which has been bad, Matt Eberflus's 200 club, etc., which has been bad. Like, all these things are bad. That's not the weird part, right? But the Bears stuck with Matt Eberflus when everybody on earth knew that it was a bad idea. Then they turn things over to an offensive coordinator that had some history. I think there's real reason to not think that Shane Waldron was going to be this poor. But looking back, it's Shane plus Pete Carroll, which we just dismiss, and Shane plus Matt Eberflus has been anything else. I mean, anything else. And I, and so, anyways, not to get off topic, it's like the hard part here is we're back where we were, where we're looking at outliers. We're looking at maybe he'll Jared or maybe Caleb can Jared Goff. To call him Justin Herbert isn't fair. Herbert had way more success. Whether that was better weapons or not does not matter. I I am somebody who will always tell you what I think the film says, but I try to couch it in data too. Because if I think Tyreek Stevenson is sick and the data thinks he's awful, then there's a point where I need to reevaluate how I'm evaluating DBs. And I can tell you that I think that they're playing Tyreek Stevenson wrong, but past a certain point, he's not delivering on what he's being asked to do. And around the middle of somebody's second year, especially in a position like DB, where you are supposed to get it by now, the fact that Tyreek's getting worse before he gets better is not a good sign. And it, like you're saying, Christopher, I sit here and I'm like, this plan, we knew it was bad. We've been coping. We knew we were coping. TB17. I think if Bajent comes in, the offense will look a little better, but the defense is going to look a lot worse. They got 19 points hung on them by a Patriots team that I did not think earned it. Happy for Ramondre Stevenson that he can batter out 4 to 5. I've got Evan LaPose saying we don't need to yell in the microphone and speak at 100 miles an hour. And I'm like, is that what I'm doing? But so, I don't know. I don't know, team. I got to be honest. I've always been a channel that tries to tell you the truth, right? And I generally look at things with a positive slant. And I do, because if I'm going to talk about the team and I want something to talk about, then I generally want to look at things as if the what is likely or maybe good, it can happen, and at least keep that lens open. We have 8 weeks of games left, and they're all divisional, or they're teams that run the ball pretty well. Kenneth Walker and the Seahawks is probably the easiest day the Bears have when it comes to offenses in their run game, and that is brutal. That is without Andrew Billings, with a hobbled Montez Sweat, this could get really bad. And Corey Brown mentioned something that I think is really important because Corey Brown says, burn the tape. Look only at Thomas Brown tape. Corey, I got bad news. Thomas Brown was part of this offense. Thomas Brown was part of the Panthers offense. I understand that people want to believe that the offensive coordinator is the single-minded trigger man of most NFL offenses, but that's just not the truth. I mean, even Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown and Chris Morgan and all the Kerry Joseph and all the other offensive staffers get into a room. And sure, if you think about it in a world of votes, right? It- if you think about it in a world of votes, Shane's got the most votes, and Matt Eberflus is the one with a veto. But if you think Thomas Brown, the passing game coordinator, had no say in the concepts that they've chosen and the general point or and the general plays that they are putting out there to start drives on third and mediums, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I don't know. And I think it's fun in theory, right? Like you're mentioning. The I I I don't know. Like it's I don't want to tell you Waldron. Like TB17 says Waldron is just a scapegoat to try to help the vibes. And I mean I'm more there than not. I'll just let you know that I would tell you that at least what I'm seeing, here's what I don't like, okay? I've watched 3 young quarterbacks in the Matt Eberflus era. And I seem to be one of the only people that takes Tyson Bagent seriously, which his greatest defenders on my channel would disagree with, but I believe it. There are a lot of people I talk to that are like, Tyson sucks. And I'm like, is it the UDFA thing? Because I think the kid can play. He's always been able to play. But anyways, I digress. I've watched 3 young quarterbacks under Matt Eberflus. And somehow they all drift towards being the same player. I've watched Justin Fields go from Matt Nagy days where he would rip things. I mean, especially as he grew into what Matt Nagy wanted to do, he's thrown with anticipation only in that late rookie year where he had a lot more problems. And I don't know if all of them were going to be solved, but at least they were progressing in the right direction. Then we get to obviously what happened with Fields. But at one point, Fields gets hurt and Tyson Bagent comes in. And Tyson Bagent is throwing the ball very quickly, not always down the field. I mean, remember that Raiders game where he had like a 3 yard average depth of target, but he was getting the ball out. Took almost no sacks, whatsoever, and avoided negative plays. The Bears got up and down the field against the Raiders. They get smashed by the Chargers. We were all there. Play against the Saints. As the score gets tight, Tyson starts to try to fit the ball into windows. He's a little inaccurate, as rookies are. Throws a bunch of interceptions. It happens. What happened the week after that, though? Anybody remember? Anybody remember? Suddenly, the player we saw against the Raiders didn't exist anymore. Tyson wasn't getting the ball out quickly. Tyson was actually very, very late. He held on to the ball. He was later on reads than I've ever seen him. Say what you will about preseason. We only get so much tape. That was the game where he was the tardiest. That was the game where he was the most gun shy. That was the game where you could feel the 200 club. You could feel, don't you dare throw an interception. Like, I get what you mean, TV, about making an excuse for Tyson, but the film is the film. In the same film that I would talk about Caleb Williams, Will for at least a little, looking like a mess, you could see this influence, at least in my opinion, where Tyson slowly but surely got less and less likely to throw the ball on any given down. And now along comes Caleb Williams. And in his first 3 weeks, he's not throwing it accurately, but he is throwing it more on time. Then in his third week, he throws, 2 interceptions against the Colts? One leaves the ball short, rolling out. And then another, he pipes a ball to Rome Odunze that I think Rome can catch, doesn't come up with it. It gets tipped. I don't care either way. Rookies be rookies. You are looking at the number one rookie hater on Bears Twitter. You get it if you've been around this channel for very long. But then, slowly but surely after that, you stop seeing any of that aggression. Sure, you see some balls that kind of look like aggression because they're open, right? Like, it's great when we throw to Keenan Allen on a fade. It's great when we throw up the seam to Keenan Allen. It is great. But after the bye, Caleb won't throw the ball anymore. And this coalesces into 6 sacks against an Arizona team that cannot run the ball, or that cannot pressure the passer, and 9 sacks against a Patriots team that can't either. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for Caleb, just like with Justin. The player has to own it. You got to have one standard. Just because I like one more than the other does not change the fact that the standard doesn't change. And you get a rookie grading curve. That's it. Because I don't expect anything from rookies. But you got to own your results. These results aren't very good. But it is awfully funny that at the same time, we're looking at a third quarterback slowly becoming the same guy that sees a defender near the area, and that's enough to make sure that we're not going to throw the ball. I will tell you honestly, like I said, going all the way back to the start, I said I'd like to be honest with you guys. I am having trouble processing this team as if they are a normal football team. I'm not even trying to play some game about a curse, right? They are so dysfunctional. They are so poorly managed. They are so prone to repeating the same mistakes with the bravado of somebody that's doing something different, that I don't know how they will ever get out of their own way. I don't know how much more you could give them outside of 2 back-to-back number 1 overall picks. I don't know what signs you needed to make a change with Matt Eberflus. I don't know how you got back here. I really don't. I mean, and by I don't know, I'm not saying I don't know how the Bears did it. I'm saying I cannot believe that they really let this happen. it is beyond disappointing. There are teams. Do you realize that if we take a look at Tankathon, here, let me just show it to you. I would like everybody in the chat to guess, where do you think the Bears are in the draft order right now? They're 4 and 5. Right? 4 and 5. Where do you think the draft order is not, by the way, some perfect metric for how healthy a team is. But I do think it makes a good point. Tankathon. The Bears are not in the top 10. The Bears aren't in the top 16. The Bears are 17th in the draft order. And you would think they're right here with the way this team is acting. And I think it's embarrassing. I think this is shockingly sad to watch. Not because the worst part is, if even our 4 and 5 seasons have to do this in the media, that they've got to become such theater for the rest of the NFL, then there is no hope that this group is ever going to do something meaningful and make us feel good about it. Somehow, being a Bears fan, at the very least, being a Bears fan under the Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles regime, has felt like the 2022 game that they won against the Niners, where they got battered for 57 minutes and pulled out 3 good minutes and won the ball game. And these wins aren't fun. Maybe you feel differently, but a game like the Commanders has happened way too often. Not just with some massive mistake where they botch a game out of absolutely nowhere, but largely because the Bears have just made a habit out of playing 3 god-awful quarters. God-awful quarters. And I understand people pointing at the quarterback. I've been there a lot, and Caleb's playing really bad ball right now. There's no reason to say anything different, right? But then I'm watching this Patriots team, okay? And look, you didn't come here for me to cite you a PFF grade. I'll tell you what I saw sitting in the stadium. I thought Drake played the kind of game that you expect when you get a rookie quarterback. I thought Drake was, I thought he was good to get away from pressure. He did a good job of avoiding sacks, but he throws 3 balls that should have been, 2.5 balls that should have been intercepted. The deep ball to Kevin Byard, you make the call. But Elijah Hicks has a ball go straight through his hands. TJ Edwards picks off a ball that can never be thrown. And Drake May fits 1 ball over Kyler Gordon, and outside of that, almost all of his completions were legitimately wide open, which good for him. Stay in the pocket, salt that ball, go get it, win a ball game, 19-3. The team around you isn't very good. I am not saying this is because Drake May sucks. I'm saying Drake May is a rookie, and he played like a rookie, and I think that's normal, right? I think what Drake May did is normal, exciting rookie quarterbacking. And I thought what the Patriots did around him was what you should expect of a team, of any organization that's dealing with a rookie quarterback. Run a normal offense. It's not even all that spectacular. It's a fairly vanilla offense when everything's said and done. But the run plays don't all look like run plays. The pass plays don't all look like pass plays. They properly attacked the right area of the field in Zach Pickens, unfortunately, as well as Elijah Hicks and Tyreek Stevenson. Like, they picked on the right weaknesses. They exploited the right tendencies, and they scored 19 points and win. If you were a Patriots fan, you should be upbeat. You should be excited because everything about that game was probably fun. And everything about this game was more of what we saw in Arizona, and more of what we saw in Washington, and more of what we saw in the dark parts of 2023, and more of what we saw in the dark parts of 2022, and more of what I've seen from 2021, and more of what I've seen in 2020, and more of what I've seen in 2019. And if this Bears team wants to convince me that I shouldn't place any hope in them, they're doing a damn good job of it. Because, as I'm sure you guys have heard before, Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There is a point where I gotta ask, what are we doing here? Like, there's a point where I'm not even trying to be super mega doomer. I'm trying to ask you, what are we doing here? Why this organization? I am a Texan, so I don't have any connection to the White Sox. When I look at the White Sox with a neutral eye, I'm amazed that any of y'all like the team because that team seems to hate you. When I look at the Bulls, I don't know why some of y'all like the team. The Jordan era was amazing. You'll always have the highlights. But I don't know why you would like a team that seems to hate you. And here I am with a team that I have never been able to be neutral about. And this team hates me. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually holding back tears right now. And you may hear it in my voice that, like, this doesn't make any sense. It defies my understanding that you could get this many gifts, and somehow squander them all. I mean, you have one of the better receivers in the NFL, and he does not seem to want to be a Bear anymore. He's not even making any bones about it anymore. You've got a quarterback that I really don't care what the haters think. I think he's special. Doesn't look like it in Chicago. If anything, he looks like a spectacular bust. But we're not there yet. And that doesn't matter. And I'm really not truly trying to go there because I think that any rookie gets 3 years, especially a quarterback. And Caleb's no exception. Anybody gets 3. And we got plenty of time. The question is whether or not you want to spend that time dissecting every snap or whether you want to spend that time casually watching the NFL, watching the Bears when they're on, maybe not, and doing something else with your time. Because if you really need me to make a prediction about this weekend's Packers game, you have so much more hope than I do. And that's the simplest way I can put it. I don't think this Packers game is going to be some 38-30 or 38-3 execution. I don't. I think it'll be more disappointing. I think it'll be like a 27-17 standard NFL game, but one that was over from the first snap and everybody knew it. Kind of like when you watch the Giants and you say, maybe they'll win this time. And they don't. They don't because they don't have an offense. They don't have the pieces. They might get close, but they don't have an offense. Like, Christopher, you mentioned how on earth did the Bears keep it that close? Because I don't think this Packers team is that great. Like, I ain't even trying to hate. I think Jordan Love's erratic. I think the way that Matt Eberflus tends to call his schemes, that he'll probably generate a turnover or two. And if the score gets way out of hand, it'll be because Josh Jacobs just ground the Bears into the dust, which might happen. Like, absolutely might happen. But if I'm being realistic with you, it feels like the kind of... You also guys got to forget, what is the easy magic for the Bears to keep a game close? Do you remember? You've seen it a lot. I'll give you 5 seconds, but there's a reason that a lot of these Bears games throughout our history have been closer than they should have been. You know it. You know it way too well, right? You know it way too well. I'll let you know. John mentions run the ball. It's because teams play the Bears, and they are not worried about getting scored on. They have no fear of that. And so they start to play offense relaxed. And sometimes that can be good. Like, every once in a while, the Bears will get dusted because of it. But more often than not, that relaxation turns into a sloppy mistake here and there. But they're already up 10, and they're not actually worried about giving the lead back. So they just stay up. And the game is technically close, just like Houston, right? It's technically within one score. But that one score feels like just a chasm that's never going to cross. And if it does, it'll get crossed by a kick block that... I can't remember his name, unfortunately. But a kick block that John Fox's team recovers, runs to the end zone, drops the ball behind him, and the score doesn't count anyways. It's like... Y'all, I know you're here for analysis, and I'm having a hard time watching this team. And Marcus Cooper, thank you, everybody. I'm having a really hard time watching this team and taking them seriously. Like, we're gonna turn on a little bit of film, and I'm gonna tell you it doesn't matter. Like, what you know in your bones is more important when it comes to these kinds of games. Because when you watch the Steelers, you get to see Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin play a game of football and coach a game of football. And the plays that they call have meaning to them and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to attack other teams, both on both sides of the ball. They have coached up their talent, have reined in their big personalities, and have gotten everybody doing one thing. And the Bears are not that. Like, the Bears are this team that let one bad play. I mean, not let one bad play. Let's be honest, it was way, way more than one big play, right? But the Hail Mary seems to have cracked the ice and everything is crumbling in a way that reminds you of this is not you, but it reminds me of my high school lacrosse team. If I can break out a word you probably haven't heard described about this is immature. This is embarrassing because it is immature. You're looking at a 4-5 team, and I don't really care about the easy schedule thing. No win in the NFL is easy. Just ask the Raiders and the Ravens. It is what it is, right? But you're looking at a 4-5 team that is acting like they have lost every game this season. And I think that is no, Joe. I'm way too short to be a deep hole. I was an attackman, baby. But so, anyways, you're looking at this team that has they are not grounded in reality, and I don't want to hear that they are. Right? Joe mentions you seemed like a Shane Waldron fan. What happened? I gave Shane too much credit for how well Gino was playing. To be very direct, I gave Shane too much credit for how Kenneth Walker was playing. I said these guys are stars and they're playing like they clearly know what's going on. And there's something to be said for a coach figuring that out. And there isn't. Also, I keep forgetting if there's something I've learned. You want to know Rob's big lesson that he learned this season? Here it is. Spelled out very bluntly. I'm going to be honest, okay? We have done this magic thing where we tell ourselves that a defensive coordinator or a defensive coach, mostly the defensive coach, has no bearing on the offense across from him. And that's not true. Clearly, Pete Carroll's teams are tighter on offense than Matt Eberflus's teams because we're looking at the same offensive coordinator. And he looks like complete. I want to pick a better word. He looks totally lost, absolutely inept, cannot hold a locker room to save his life. No details. Nobody's listening. Is that obvious to you? It feels obvious to me. Everett doesn't look like he cares. DJ doesn't look like he cares. Keenan doesn't really look like he knows what's going on. Rome doesn't look like he has any idea what's going on. Cole Kmet is trying his hardest. Don't get me wrong, but it's like this is so sad. I mean, the linemen don't look like they know what's going on. They can't pick up a stunt to save their dadgum lives. I mean, anything that they're running a full audible system, and I'm not even certain that more than 8 players listen when the quarterback calls this stuff out at this point. And you could say what you will, but there is a piece to coaching that is as simple as getting guys to buy in. And clearly, Carroll did that for Shane Waldron because people can hate Shane Waldron all they wanted to. That Seahawks offense was productive across two different quarterbacks across 3 different years. DK and Tyler are awesome, but you can listen to Seahawks people; they'll tell it for you that the Seahawks offense is struggling without Shane Waldron. That is words I've heard from people that are plugged in with the Seahawks. The Seahawks themselves seems to hate Shane Waldron. So there's something to be said for he clearly does not get along with the players, but his stuff might kind of work because the Seahawks were better when Shane was there. Shane comes to the Chicago, where they've got a PE teacher running the team, and nobody gives a damn. And it is so obvious. It is so sad. And you know what the worst part is? Here's the worst part. Maybe the Bears hire Ben Johnson. Maybe they hire my pet project coach in Liam Cohen. Maybe they do. Right? I am beginning to believe 31 NFL teams get to play by normal rules. Keenan Allen wouldn't look this washed. DJ wouldn't have given up this fast after a brand new extension. But in Chicago, you need a Harbaugh. And they didn't want him. They didn't interview him and get outbid. They didn't want him. They don't want a coach that might actually change the culture. They want a coach that they can act like will change the culture. They want a coach that will preach history and talk about what they were, right? But here's what the Bears are. The modern era has gone on about 50 years in the world of Super Bowls. And the Bears have had 32 losing seasons, coupled with 15 playoff appearances. Obviously, some seasons in the middle. What history is there to celebrate at this point? I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that, like, I don't know. I'm not telling you what to do with your time. I'm telling you that I am having a very hard time taking this team seriously. Very hard time. Because they don't look like the players, don't look like they respect the organization. And if they're going to do that, why should we? And if Ryan Poles is going to take a moment like this, Chapter 9, Wisdom of the Bullfrog, communication, communication, communication. Where is the communication? Matt Eberflus, consistently a day late and a dollar short when it comes to literally anything. Comes out of the Washington game. Well, if the players execute better, then there you go. What does he do the next week? It's all on me. What does he do this week? It's all on me. Matt, maybe you should have figured that out any sooner. I got told by a ton of you guys, nothing's worse than Matt Nagy. It gets a lot worse than Matt Nagy. Whether or not you want Matt back doesn't matter because Matt earned a firing too. And to me, that's where I'm struggling the hardest, okay? Is I don't know if Matt Nagy was ever going to win a Super Bowl, but he's far and away the most successful coach that the Bears have had in the last 4 tries. Far and away. It's not close. John Fox and Mark Trestman and Matt Eberflus and Matt Nagy are your last four coaches. So the question is, would you rather have Matt Nagy or Lovie Smith back? And honest to God, that's kind of your choice, right? It's not like Lovie's offenses were any good. It's not like Nagy's offenses were any good. So get a different flavor of the same team either way. But what's sad to me is I end up walking away with this feeling. You came to this stream for my take. Here's my take. I struggle to look at Matt Nagy and not see a solid coach. You don't have to think he was this amazing coach, but I struggle to see a complete bum. I look at Caleb Williams. I struggle to see a complete bum. And I'm watching the same team playing in the same city chew these guys up and spit them out ruthlessly. And it's hard to stomach. It becomes, at least in my opinion, it's kind of like watching, I don't know, it's like watching dreams die. Like, I'm watching Justin Fields get drafted by the Bears, and you could see on his face, he knew what that meant. I'm watching Caleb Williams take the opposite approach, do everything he can, at least in his eyes, to try to change things. And nothing changed. Caleb is another Bears quarterback, at least 9 weeks into the season, as opposed to being the different one. And if you think that's not weighing on Caleb, I think you're probably out of your mind. I'm not telling you it's over. It's never over. Jared Goff looked like garbage in his rookie year with Jeff Fisher, who does not seem himself that far removed from what we're seeing with Matt Eberflus. And then the Rams hired Sean McVay, And say what we will about Jared Goff, he is a completely different guy in the Lions, and his number one overall pick status feels pretty fair. Like, Jared Goff's a good quarterback, and it doesn't matter because I think, like Jibby mentioned weeks ago, that it's really easy to get twisted up in, did you draft a Hall of Famer? Like I said then, like I feel now, I want somebody good. I want somebody that gets me to at least just stop thinking about, do we need a good quarterback? Right? All I want is normal. It's why I liked Nick Foles. I want a floor that you can go out and play normal football. Like, let me do a stream where we are knee deep in a cool run scheme and the way that that played off of it, so that we could generate a passing explosive. That's fun. That's why I did this. Instead, I'm watching a team that is run worse than some college programs. The talent's better. I believe in this roster. But the way they are running this team, the results we're seeing in part because of it, and the performance we're getting from the latest young signal caller. A signal caller that I personally believe, you can disagree. I personally believe that you have no excuse as a Bears organization for Caleb to not be an acceptable NFL quarterback. Pick your standard, okay? But I'm telling you that I think Caleb should look playable. He shouldn't look like this. And getting to this point is beyond embarrassing. It's a complete and total failure. It is everything that anybody who's anti-tank worried about, because the Bears accepted a culture of losing. They didn't turn it around. And now a lot of the players are not Jalen Johnson about it. They seem like they're okay with it. But it's brutal. And like Michael Dodson mentions, that Caleb is going to be fine. He just needs to play with, that starts with the head coach. Here's the problem, Mike. The Bears have 8 games left. And you're either going to be the team that benches Caleb Williams at some point in that, or Caleb's going to take 8 more weeks of battering. He still has to play 2 more Vikings games. He has to play 2 games against a team that blitzes absolutely ruthlessly. 1 game against a team in the Lions who calls pretty much man coverage 100% of the time. And the Bears can't apparently beat man coverage, which is in and of itself sad, because we came into this season talking about how they're, not just we, it'd be one thing if us Bears fans were delusional, right? But we had many normal people talking about how the weapons on this Bears team were at least remark worthy. Again, top 12, top 15. I don't care. People thought that Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift was enough to build an offense out of. And people could tell me about this offensive line. New England played 5 backups too, and they looked acceptable. And they didn't look good, okay? The Patriots offensive line did not have some amazing game, but they looked normal. They looked NFL caliber. They didn't look lost. And here we are on the other side, finding every excuse, every way to say, oh, well, if they had Joe Alt. Oh, well, if they had this. And it's like, this is so hard. This is so much harder than it has to be. And I can't stand watching it. And then you got people, and Jay Sanders, you and I disagree, and that's okay. You got people that are talking about a guy that the league saw no value in, none at all. And he's sitting on the bench for a Steelers team that did not want him to keep playing when he had every reason, he being Tomlin, to ride the hot hand. Like, I sit here watching people talk about Fields like he is this quarterback that he wasn't. He's a charismatic individual. He was fun to watch. He was really easy to cheer for, but we are aggrandizing who he is if we say that he was some offensive foundation. The Bears have a quarterback that is throwing with anticipation, has no feel for a deep ball at all. It seems like, at least as these weeks go on, he's getting worse before he gets better, which is, on one hand, it's not that abnormal, but it's a tough look. Tough look. When Jaden Daniels' team is 6-3, Drake May is making at least a couple fun plays a week. Bo Nix is winning with a Broncos team that's got a defense that is balling, and here we are, right? Great. Caleb looks a little better than Spencer Rattler. that what does that mean, right? For anybody who was starving for the Bears to be like watchable, this is a kick in the crotch. To act like it's not is to frankly not plug in, right? This hurts. It's not fun. And the worst part is, first impressions matter. And you look at least in my opinion, you look at the statistics that Caleb's putting up, and it's great that he had some sick games because he did, right? If I was going to pick out games that I liked the second half of the Colts game. I liked the second half of the Rams game. I liked most of the Carolina game. I liked a lot of that Jaguars game. And the fourth quarter rally against Washington was remarkable, especially given how bad things were. But here we are after two of the bad ones. And the Bears look awful. And you've got people that are campaigning for, apparently, Caleb to be benched. And if Caleb's benched, the fold it. Like, I'm not trying to be overly doomer. If you use the number 1 overall pick on Caleb Williams and you get nothing out of him, fold it up. I'll see you in 5 years. But probably won't, to be honest. Like, I won't. I just won't do this in that case, just because there's no fun in it. But like, if you're benching Caleb Williams and you're throwing away a number 1 overall pick, then it's over. And there's no world where that's not the case. Because if you want to be the Steelers, you need a Russell Wilson. And if you think Tyson Bagent is on the level of Russell Wilson, I don't agree. I think Tyson is a good player. He's fun to watch, but I mean good on the absolute scale. I think compared to other premier, like upper echelon NFL starters, there's a lot that I don't think he has. And that's okay. Who knows? Maybe he's the next Brock Purdy. Could be. But if he's not one of the best draft picks since Tom Brady, according to draft value, then then he doesn't meet that standard. And it's not even close. If he doesn't get there, that is. But like what is this? Michael says, Caleb isn't getting benched. And Reinhardt says, if you bench Caleb, it means everyone is gone. I think everybody's gone regardless. I mean, I don't think that there's any salvaging this. I don't. I'm not a dramatic person, right? At least I try not to be. I try to be high energy, but realistic. There is no saving this. This is too much because we saw it last year. It is a repeat of what we saw last year. It is unacceptable to act like there is any saving this. I think is to live. Okay, here's what you got to remember, okay? I've talked about this on the podcast before, that when you're projecting wins and losses, you need to also project how the team copes, if this makes sense. You need to project how the fans cope, not for any other reason than I think it's fun, right? You need to remind yourself that you can predict 3 losses in a row on the calendar. You can, right? And then when you get to that 3rd loss, people melt. That this is what happens, right? Not this. It's not normally this bad. But Baltimore starts 0-2. People go, frauds? Because that's just what people do. You lose 2 games. People say, what are they going to do? Win the next 6? Then they do, right? The problem here is today, Matt Eberflus's job isn't in danger. But if the Bears finish 2-6, I don't know in what world that's going to feel chipper and competitive, right? Like in a world where the next couple games play out and they get rolled, then I don't know how anybody survives this, because it will be what? It'll be am I getting the math right? Yeah. It'll be a 2-9 finish to the season. Jibby, you mentioned if he wins 3 more games. It'll be a 3-8 finish to the season. Jay Sanders, what's the conversation here? Jay Sanders, this one's really easy. Justin had 1 net passing yard as a rookie. Like, Caleb, compared to Justin, at least as a rookie, much better. Not that it matters. Like, and Drex, I was here to point out that the Bears aren't even high on this. Like, I'm pointing out that according to this, the Bears are a good-ish team, right? And TB, you mentioned as a GM, you obviously need to see what you have in Bagent, especially when a team wants and have given up on Caleb. Man, TB, I think you're way off. But at the same time, The Bears seem to have a player, at least one, that doesn't want Caleb playing anymore for whatever reason. And I'm here to tell you that, like, I just don't have the gas to care. I bet you don't either, right? Are you in here too, where you're doing this out of habit? We are all here doing this out of habit. And Jibby, you mentioned Caleb hasn't rallied the team around him for some reason. There's something to it. But if upper leadership is completely uninspiring, then nobody cares about the 22-year-old. Like, Jibby, forgive me for asking this. How old are you? Like, I need a number in the chat, and I don't care if you lie, okay? You just give me a number, and I will act like it's the truth. And I'm waiting on Jibby Guy to tell me. Jibby says he's 21. I want you to tell me what a 15-year-old would have to do to get your attention, okay? If you were working on a group project with a 15-year-old kid who doesn't know anything, what's he going to do? If the guy that's leading you, the 40-year-old, is leading you in the wrong direction, whether he is or not, you think he is. Like, what do you think? At what point? How quickly would you listen? And I get it. I really get it. I promise that it sounds easy when you say something like, well, he hasn't rallied the team around him. And I'm like, this kid is younger than all of them. For better or for worse, Justin Herbert as a rookie was the guy throwing the ball, less so like this gallivanting leader. You didn't really see it with Mahomes. When Mahomes was leading his team, it was Chris Jones's team and Tyreek Hill's team and Travis Kelce's team. And Mahomes was the guy throwing the ball. And I'm with you, Jibby, that you mentioned CJ being a pretty vocal leader. Sure. I mean, when you're throwing 3,000 yards in 12 games, people turn and listen to the 15-year-old, right? Like, if you're on a hockey team with this 15-year-old and he hangs 2.5 goals a game, people are going to pay attention. I asked you, what would he have to do? He'd have to play exceptional ball. And he isn't. He looks like a 22-year-old. And when that's the case, you're just a 22-year-old. Your leadership only means so much. And that's the Kaiser, it's going okay. Jay Sanders, you mentioned at least Justin had 9 sacks in his first game starting, not game number 9. Jay Sanders, I got to be honest, man, we're just not going to agree on this. Like, I am watching a team that's giving up pressure 3/4 of a second faster than they gave it up last year, and the sack rate's higher because, I mean, well, actually, that blends together. But everybody's blaming it on the quarterback. And yeah, Caleb needs to throw the ball away. Last week, he threw the ball away too often. People got on him about that. Well, it may not have been last week. It may have been 2 weeks ago, where he threw the ball away on like a third of his pass attempts. And obviously, I'm sure the coaching staff didn't like that. So then they told him, don't do that, but also don't throw a pick. And here the kid is frozen, right? We get a sideline report that says they're not showing him dynamic plays that he makes. They're showing him his point guard plays. They're saying, we want you to sit in the pocket. We want you to throw the ball. And I get it. And Jay Sanders, nobody said it's not Caleb's fault. We're saying he's a rookie. You feel me? Like, nobody's saying that Caleb is playing well. We're saying it wasn't supposed, and it wasn't. If you listen to me at all in June, in May, in March, talking about this, I mentioned it's the job of the team to make this work, because that's how it is with rookies. You mentioned Jibby, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is doing what he did at LSU, and he looks really good at it. Like, Jaden Daniels is piping go balls, and they are accurate as hell. And he's throwing RPOs, and they are right on point. And he's hitting the dig wide open over the middle to a big dog receiver, and it looks great when he does it. And when he feels pressure, he's rolling out and running, and he looks quick when he does it. Like, what did Jaden Daniels do? I'm being honest. And this is good. This is good for Daniels. Daniels looks great. Daniels looks great. But what's he doing that's different than he did at LSU? It's not really anything, because the Commanders are making this thing work, right? They're saying, if this is what he does, then that is what we'll do. Tell me I'm out of my mind. You watch the Patriots. If this is what he does, that is what we'll do. You watch the Broncos. If this is what he does, that is what we'll do. And you watch the Bears. We do this. Do it. No, I didn't say do that. Do this. I didn't say do that. Do this. And it's not working. Shocker, right? How funny is it that almost every young Bears quarterback that takes it, actually, now that I think about it, how long has this stretch gone back? Okay. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me the quarterback that this is not true for. Okay. Which Bears quarterback played better in the middle of the season than they played at the end or at the start? I guess maybe you could say it's Mitch. Like, Mitch started the season foul a couple years ago in 2019. But Justin didn't have a very good start to 2023. This breaks down a little. But, like, I'm thinking about Foles, where I thought Foles was best early. Dalton was best early. It felt like Bears have had a lot of quarterbacks, man. They haven't had a lot of quarterbacks. I don't know. Anyways, Ben mentions the whole analogy of giving Caleb the whole playbook and throwing him into the fire because he can handle it is objectively a failure. Yeah, I mean, we're at the point where we've got to do the thing where we argue with the chat making excuses, right? And I'll be honest, I said this. I said this to Pete Pikowski on Twitter. I know everybody hates him. I think Pete's a good guy that knows how to troll, and it works, right? Say what you will. I think Pete generally knows what's going on. If you go back and you look at Pete's tweets, he liked Caleb, he liked Rome, whatever. It's not about that. This isn't some appeal to allegiance. It's more saying that regardless of what Pete's going to say to get Bears fans to retweet it during a Packers week, because that's what he does. He plays the game. It's his profession, right? Regardless of what he says, generally, if you get reasonable with him, he will get reasonable. And what he mentioned is that the Bears fans are right back in the same cycle that they've been in. Y'all, I'm going to be very direct with you. To say we aren't is to be detached from reality, right? We are right back in that spot where maybe it will be different. I think it will be. But at least right now, we are justifying a young quarterback playing terribly, right? And people are saying he's awful. They're jumping to the end. And other people are saying he's not awful. It's actually everything else. Both are right so far. And we got to sit here and just be in the middle of it again, right? Mitch is awful. No, he's not. It's Matt Nagy. It's this team that has no talent. It's the offensive line, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not Fields. It's everybody else, which people actually still say that, right? Even going back and looking at the existing Steelers, they said he's got no weapons. Russ is figuring it out. By the way, I got to tell you, so partially because of Justin, but I have watched more Steelers games than I think I expected to this season. It has been a lot of fun watching Russell Wilson, like, just pop the ball. Like, I mean, say what you will, like, Ben, to use an example, how fun is it seeing a quarterback look at a receiver that's like just let's call it what it is. George Pickens is a malcontent. George Pickens is a pain to work with. George Pickens is one of the best contested catchers in football, period. And Russell just toss the ball up. He will just lob that thing. I mean, he will say 14 is down there somewhere, and he is slaying it. It is so much fun. It is so much fun to watch this whole thing play out. And I mean, Jibby, you mentioned Caleb isn't doing anything to uplift and elevate. Man, the more I watch football, the more that, at least in my opinion, that only goes so far. I've watched people say the same about Goff, and now you get Goff an offensive line, and suddenly he's elevating guys that I don't think are quite their branding. Like, you look at players like, I don't know, Rodgers, and people will say, oh, well, he just ain't got it anymore. And it's like, well, they always got him an offensive line, and generally one receiver. You can elevate a lot, can't elevate pretty much nothing, but also he's not playing well, and that's what I'm trying to build at, right? But I don't know, man. the way Caleb is today, he's not good enough. I didn't think he was going to. I actually kind of did. To be blunt with you, we are past the point where I thought the Bears were going to have it figured out. It is not historically unusual for a rookie to not have it figured out immediately. But let's be blunt here. When the Facebookers said, that's not fair. When the detractors said, what's throwing another quarterback going to do with this? When the detractors said, you really want the Bears to take this kid? Like, it's not going to work. What about the Bears have ever developed a quarterback? When the detractors said, that city has a history. I don't know why you'd think this was going to work. When the detractors said all the things they said, we said, reasonably, that's not fair. And it's played out pretty much chalk, like a lot of the detractors expected that it would. If you've ever seen a bell curve, they look like this, right? And I like to live in the world of the middle of the bell curve. Generally, you get here. Let me pull up a note sheet. Because otherwise it's not going to make any sense. Okay, so for those of you who did not take statistics in college, I'm about to give you an incredibly basic lesson in statistics, okay? There's a concept called a standard deviation. And the way that a standard deviation works is to basically try to, the word is abstract, abstract a unit of measurement that predicts around when things relevant happen. So you're abstracting out certain elements of how far you have to fall. So an idea of this would be, hang on, Stokes, this is going to matter. All right. Just so like, I'm giving you a small lesson in this because I need to do this to make a point. All right. So the best way to put this is a solid or an okay quarterback day in the modern era throws for 210 yards. One standard deviation away from that, so a good day would be 245. Because we now have the measurement of one standard deviation as 35, we can say that a great day is 280. I did that freehand, but that does feel about right, doesn't it? You subtract about 35 yards, you get to what, 180 or 175 yards. And then a really woeful day is closer to 140. Picks and turnovers, et cetera, but you start to, like, that is the world of standard deviations, okay? And I say this because the main reason, or like when I try to talk about football and I try to talk about outcomes, I try to live in the world of about 2 standard deviations. Best way to put this is the world of normal stuff, right? Derek Carr, probably going to play like Derek Carr. Shane Waldron, probably going to coach like Shane Waldron, et cetera. This is how I interpret it. And the Bears and the Jets have lived over here my entire life. and I don't know what to do about it because I'm sitting here looking at a team that is doing everything they can to breed bad habits in the best chance they had at a star quarterback in my lifetime. And if you can't do it, and if you can't, get it together for this one and try something that everybody on Twitter thought they could do, right? Everybody on Twitter thought that they would line up the head coach, the GM, and the quarterback. That's not even a hard thing to ask. I don't think it is. Do you? Like, I don't think it's that hard to say, let's get a new coach to coach the new quarterback. What we have isn't working. Sorry, Matt. We'll do it later. Or like, we wish you the best. No, we had to wait through the bad season. Now we're halfway through the bad season before the hard part's about to start. And I got people telling me that things are going to get better because they fired their third offensive coordinator or their second offensive coordinator in about 14 games. what am I supposed to think? Like, it's so bad. And everybody knew it was coming. And Rudy Ochoa mentions guaranteed money with Flus. And that's the only thing I can come back to. Like, I'm not even trying to get here. Like, follow me on this. The only rationale I can see for keeping Matt Eberflus in the first place was Poles actually thinking that Matt Eberflus had something going for him, which is ridiculous. Or George told him, make it work because I'm not going to fire him. That would mean paying out 3 years of money for no coach, and I am not going to do that. And if that's the case, then let me be the first to break it to you that the Bears are not going to fire Ben Johnson. Or they're not going to hire Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson wants to be paid like a normal coach. They will hire Drew Petzing. They will hire a young offensive coordinator that doesn't need to coach for more than $8 million a year, which by the time we get to this next hiring cycle will be about $3 million under market. Whereas I expect that Ben Johnson would probably come to the Bears for about $12.5 million. But I just don't believe they're going to do it. They paid, if memory serves, somewhere between $6 and $7 million a year for Matt Eberflus, and that is just going to cost nothing, man. Like Brex mentions Bobby Slowick, great, because the Texans look fantastic on offense this year, don't they? Like tell me why it's going to change. Normally, I tell you why there's a reason to hope. Tell me why it's going to change. Tell me why this time will be different. Tell me why there's any reason to bother. Like Rudy Nardini asks, could Bajan actually run those offense better at the rate Caleb is regressing and missing targets? I think Bajan's lack of arm talent isn't as much of a concern. I'm going to be blunt, Rudy. Chances are Tyson Bagent could run things better than we're seeing Caleb run it. You're asking me off the back of 15 sacks over 2 weeks, and I think, 280 total passing yards to show for it? I believe that Caleb Williams has managed the almost unbelievable feat of throwing nearly 100 pass attempts with neither a touchdown nor an interception, and there hasn't even been like a dropped football or something in the middle. Like, it's just been nothing, man. It's just been nothing. He's got no feel for a deep ball right now, so if there is an opportunity, they're not taking it. And when he does, it looks so hopeless. It's nothing that's going to keep a defense honest. And Ben, you mentioned drops, definitely drops. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about drops that would be first downs. I'm talking about, I'm not thinking about, I can't think of any dropped touchdowns. I can't think of any dropped interceptions. Like, that number is actually static, if you follow. Like, the near 100 pass attempts with neither statistical outcome finishing a drive. And it's like, it's just a little wild. Like, it's pretty crazy looking at this. And MJ, I think, is true, by the way, where if I'm picking up on what MJ's saying, like, the other piece to me when I look at Bagent, this is my opinion, is playing Bagent doesn't solve anything. I think that it creates as many problems as it solves. Great, you might have a playable quarterback, but would you have a quarterback that gives you a shot to beat the Packers? I don't think so, not realistically. I think that the Packers are too good a team for Tyson Bagent leading this Bears team to give you more than they fumbled 4 times, lol, and we also blocked a field goal. I took it back the other way. Chance at beating the Packers. Not that the Bears need their quarterback to be a superhero. Like, I've tried to explain, I hope, that the moment that Bears start saying, quarterback save us, they're already hosed. But they're not, it's not there. Like, right now they need any consistency, for crying out loud. Any consistency. That's part of the reason that if you are looking at a Tyson Bagent type, the hope is at least he plays like a veteran, with the problem being it's only his second year in the league. This isn't exactly Ryan Tannehill. This isn't Joe Flacco. Like, it's brutal. Being here sucks. Like, being here is no fun. I could keep talking. We could talk rational about the irrational things, and we could talk irrationally about rational things, okay? We could do that. But I am beyond disappointed that we have managed to get back into this hole that all of us agreed if it got back here again, we weren't going to do it again. Didn't we? I heard so many people bravely say, if Justin doesn't work out, I can't follow this team anymore. And a lot of you changed your tune the moment that Caleb Williams was possible. But a lot of you said it then too. You said, if Caleb Williams doesn't work out, I can't follow this team. And I'm not going to call you on anything because at the end of the day, it's just not my way, right? But I meant it, to be honest with you. Y'all, you can say what you will about this, but I wasn't kidding when I said going into this team, going into the season, I said the 2024 and the 2025 Bears need to go 500. They need to combine 500 or better. Because if they don't, I don't know how I can reasonably expose my son to this and expect him to have any fun with this game that I love so much. And here the Bears are, staring down the barrel of a shocking 6-11 season, maybe worse. That means they would need to go 11-6 if they're going to get to 500. So my word is getting tested all of a sudden, and this fucking sucks. Like, this is, if you're not heartbroken, then I don't know if you cared. Not about my son. It's not about that, right? Like, it's more, how did this go this badly? The doubters didn't think it would. I mean, some of them did. Like, if Sir Lord Baby Peen's in this, like, he actually said that he thought the team was going to go 6-11. I don't know if he thought it was going to go like this quickly, or if the season was going to evaporate quite like this. But it wasn't as if nobody thought it was going to go this badly. And I get it. Like, 10-7 was always much more of a hope than it was an expectation, right? But no, man, I'm going to be honest, Joe. I can't do the Coleman thing, right? Like, and that's not a call out, but I'll be blunt about it. I can't do the thing where I act like I swear off a team and come back, if you get what I'm saying. Like, the image that I have is much more Frodo than it is like, oh, angry fan who's so entitled, if that makes sense. It's more like there's nothing for me here anymore, if it gets to that point. And honestly, I'm going to be blunt. Like, I talked about it, exposing it to my son. I didn't say I was going to stop, right? You can't take it out of your blood, or else a lot of us would have. We're too deep in this hole, Donald. Like, we're too deep in this hole. But like you're saying, Rex, it's like, what do you mention? Like, Rex mentions, after last year, this is what I expect from Eberflus. And that, I think, is my biggest struggle within this. It's like, what did we think was going to happen? I don't know what we thought was going to happen. Ben wants the tape. We'll do a little tape. One thing I can't stand is that you can tell what plays the Bears are running. You swear. Like, you look at these formations. The Patriots don't have any questions. Play calling tendencies. Nobody's got any questions. It's like, here's just a run down the pipe. Unshocking. 44's got a good idea of what's going on. And then he just lights this up. Like, say what you will. I get the run fit, etc., etc. But whatever 45 sees, he's not surprised. Like, he points out, hey, we got Rome tight. They're coming at us. And goes and hits the snot out of Coleman Shelton, turns the run, and there you go. Ben mentioned Swift can't slip through that hole. And it's like, well, what'd you expect? It's only right in front of him. So, of course he can't, right? Because all Swift wants to do is bounce or bend it backwards generally. Like if you give him truly one lane, maybe he'd take it. But I really believe Swift is a very talented player that is it's like he is a very talented player that can do all of the things that running backs do, but he does them all like a receiver would. Why can't we get through there? Why can't we take one step and then cut through the hole and follow blockers? I couldn't tell you. But that's not near the worst player of the game. Because that's what's funny about the run game. When you get guys moving, 3 yards isn't so bad. Well, Dynasty, really don't worry about it. We're not spending long. Like, I gotta tell you guys, this tape is just, it's so bad, if you ask me, that it's like, I mean, this is what you're living with, right? All right, so let's count. Let's count how long it takes Keenan to just turn around, right? We go big play action shot. We are working to get Keenan Allen open. And it takes, what? I forgot to count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi for your number one option to finally turn around. And you can say what you will. There's a guy sitting right under here. You got to throw it to Swift. Like, realistically, you got to get to your check down. Sue the rookie quarterback for begging the question on whether or not his number one wide receiver was going to get open for him, just like the play call says he's supposed to. But whatever. Then Caleb checks DJ Moore. DJ's already broken. Maybe he's looking at DeAndre Swift. I think we can get the ball there instead of walking into pressure. But, we don't. We take a sack that we cannot throw. You have to get off of Keenan. I think DJ actually separates for you. That's the best, just about the best route that DJ runs. To be clear, this is a 1-2 based on the way Caleb reads it. In this, what should Caleb do? Caleb should recognize that as soon as this linebacker drops, that Keenan is never getting open. But for whatever reason, I'm going to be very blunt, okay? Because I have seen chemistry and I have seen lack of chemistry. And Caleb does not seem to like DJ. And Caleb seems to take any situation to not throw to DJ Moore. What's going on between them? I could not tell you. Who started it? I don't know. But I can tell you that Caleb does not seem to trust DJ. DJ does not seem to think he's getting the ball, ever. And I don't know. I could just tell you it's happening. I don't even think it's weird, right? Because that's not even, it's barely analysis. It's just then you watch, and as the game goes on, like we always used to talk about how DJ's routes were like strong and physical, but imprecise, and Caleb clearly doesn't like that. And who's right? I don't know. It's not like DJ's separating. Here's Caleb throwing a perfect anticipatory ball. Ball is out well before we've turned around, and the ball glances off Rome Odunze's hands on what would have needed to be a real hell of a play anyways. And it's like, that sucks. I mean, and like well short of the sticks, would have been setting up 4th down anyways. It's not much of a pass to gloat over. Like, I need to be so plain. If you hear me being too positive about Caleb Williams, that's not really fair. Like, Caleb's not playing well. Really, nobody is. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Rex, I think you're not off. I mean, not to mention, like Rex says, I don't think DJ ever got over a quarterback. Let me read it. I don't think DJ ever got over a quarterback he actually liked playing with getting traded. Not saying he's right, just my guess. Rex, you got to also remember that for DJ Moore, Justin Fields' rules were, I'm just going to keep staring at you. So timing didn't matter. Route depth didn't matter, right? Get open, fly open for me, and I'll just throw you the ball, wherever that is. No real need for anticipation. Curl, turn around, come back for the ball. I'm throwing it anyways, right? Was it an 8-yard curl that you ran a 10-yard curl on? Who gives who cares? Right? I'm staring at you. I'm not looking anywhere else. I don't want to. That's the way DJ wants to play ball. Is that correct? Not correct? Who cares? I mean, like, I don't think it is. That's not how I would coach. If I was coaching, landmarks, depths, how we come out of routes, details, 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 that stuff has to matter, right? I think that has to matter. But they played buddy ball and they got 1,300 yards out of it. So I don't blame DJ for having a problem with this new style of offense. I don't think this offense is working. If we're talking today, DJ's got a point. And his point is, I don't like this franchise. So what do we do? And I mean, like, that's the thing, BG. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that I suddenly think that Justin Fields is any different than he was. I'm very solid in the analysis that I've given you about Justin Fields over the last couple of years, right? I can also just see it from DJ's perspective, that the good ones are good enough that I know you guys have heard this joke before. You get the I will remember you glasses every single time that this kid Caleb Williams looks at 6-time Pro Bowler Keenan Allen over your one-time Pro Bowl $80 million guaranteed self. Like, you get nostalgic, you know what I'm saying? And then you get a triple formation that, have the Bears ever run out of this? Like, have the Bears run out of this a single time ever? Have the Bears ever run with a tight end not nubbed up on the line of scrimmage? You tell me. I can't think of one, right? Arizona used to do this stuff all the time with Cliff Kingsbury. They would spread out wide and then they would run the ball so that they could get a 6-on-6 box if you count the running back. In some cases, they'd even have a guy fly across the line of scrimmage at snap so that they could try to draw some motion at this point. Like, it is wild to watch, I think, just how poor this offense is. So then you get this play, which I'm sure we've seen, right? Where Keenan, so what is the play? Here's what I think it is, okay? I think Schmitz is your alert or your check down. I think that DJ is basically running, I'm going to call it a pick, like for P, but it does become sort of a sail route. And then Keenan Allen is going to run a choice. I called on the podcast for a whole bunch of Keenan Allen choice routes. For better or for worse, I got what I wanted, and they don't look very good. So on a play like this, Keenan Allen is basically option number 1, 2, and 3. You can disagree with me if you want to, but traditionally on choice routes, you don't come off the receiver until he's made his choice. Here, Keenan Allen makes his choice. This is the window we're given. We throw into it anyways. We get a completion. If we weren't melting down, I'd tell you it's a pretty damn tight window over the middle of the field, and we fit it in there anyways because, I don't know, a little bit of trust and a lot of arm talent. So if you, I don't know, you can think whatever you want. But when I think about, I like this kid, like my priors don't feel totally, I don't think they look totally off. Like, I like Caleb Williams. I think that if he wasn't a Bear, that if Caleb Williams was on the Seahawks and we were seeing a lot of what we saw from Caleb on the Seahawks, I would say, I don't know, guys, people are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That is a terrible situation. I've seen a lot of things that I think are hard to do and that a lot of other quarterbacks aren't doing. And eventually, if anything is made easier for him, the hard stuff that he's doing right now will elevate the easy stuff that comes later. But there is no easy stuff. Drake May gets 3 to 5 completions in wide open grass because that's normal, right? Like, say what you will. I'm not actually trying to tell you that Drake May had it easy, fam. I'm telling you Drake May had a normal day. And in that normal day, most people would tell you he underperformed. And Caleb had a bad day around him, and he underperformed that. And that is not a good competition. or not a good combination is what I'm going for. It's like this is just so sad. So the Bears run it well. And I mean, I really just don't have the patience, man, to do all this. Let's see. Matt, it does kind of feel that way, but you also got to remember Keenan probably did it. Like Matt says, might sound stupid, but do you think the coaches are just nailing it into Caleb's head that Keenan's your best guy? Wait until you see if he's open or not and then decide. Matt, I think it's simpler. Do you remember who roomed with Caleb Williams during training camp? Do you remember who stayed in a hotel room to study the playbook with Caleb Williams during OTAs? Do you think that stuff doesn't matter, Matt? Like, somebody put the effort in, okay? One of the Bears players put the effort in, and he's the one who is worst at separating. And there's not a lot we can do about that because nobody else wanted to do that, or at least nobody else got the role, right? Like, this matters. I really think it matters, okay? During week 2, I'm getting so distracted. During week 2, Houston game, Caleb Williams, 2 interceptions. Who's he talking to? Inactive Keenan Allen. What's DJ Moore doing? He's sitting in the shot on the bench, staring into space. I don't know what to say. Like, Rome clearly doesn't get the details, but so, for better or for worse, that's just a work in progress. But DJ had the opportunity to be the number 1 wide receiver. DJ got paid like he was the number 1 wide receiver. He's not been the number 1 wide receiver. And Caleb has been everything but Keenan has been, in attitude, the number 1 wide receiver, but on the field, he's been a number 3. And this is not a good combination. And I think we can understand. I don't know. When I explain it like that, I hope it makes sense because I think it makes sense. It's just not fun. Bears go 2nd and 1. They pick it up off duo. If you really want me to analyze the run play, I will. But I don't think that's why you're watching this stream. At least not after a game like this. Great. The knickknacks of the run are all right. No worries, Matt. But so here, if you ask me, these are the runs where Swift is at his worst. Like here, we're running duo. Don't go this way. Like, I'm not trying to be too simplistic. The run track is in this direction. Cut it this way if you really want to. But the moment you go out here, there's nobody out there. Look at Cole Kmet's shoulders. They tell you everything. They are not guarding past this point. It's kind of like a danger minefield, right? Like there's nothing safe out there. And he's going to go out there anyways. And there's just not a lot. Like that one I'm not mad at Keenan for because you aren't asking him traditionally to go block that space. You're asking him to follow his blockers up the dadgum middle of the field. So ride it and meet number 16 in the hole and clack some pads and take your 2nd and 6. Or don't. Instead, you could bounce it in whatever direction you want to and just leave the whole rest of the team not sure where you're going, right? But I don't know. That's like, it's great. He got 6 yards. Like there's something to that. If I don't know, maybe I'm just mad because actually traditionally that's a pretty good run. And pretty much any way you can generate 5 yards of carry, like that's usually a thumbs up. But all that bouncing eats a bunch of TFLs as games progress. So what are you going to do? Well, of course you're going to run. You're in 13, right? Bears have 84. Oh, it's not 13. It's just slow people, right? You've got Cole Kmet, you've got Mercedes Lewis, and you got DJ Moore on this side. You're going to run toss crack. You're going to get obliterated. Not much you can do about Cole Kmet getting absolutely chuffed, and Coleman Shelton can't hold anything either, but it's really Kmet. Like, the moment that Kmet can't hit this reach block and the whole team, like, I don't know, if we're gonna cape for Kmet a little bit, you could argue that there's a details piece of Mercedes Lewis that has to commit to pinning this block down. But this guy is 40. Okay, I have to write it. I just realized the camera means that I have to write it here, don't I? He is 40. Like, because he's 40, forgive me, I'm going to assume that Mercedes Lewis is doing what he's coached to do. And he ignores this. I guess he tries to get a piece of him, right? And it's wild. Because if Swift just stays on his track, he still might have something. Like, Mercedes actually does get a piece of him. But the moment Swift bounces in, we are hosed and we are in TFL town. Nobody trusts anybody. I mean, you could see it, right? Like, as we're sitting here talking about blocks, et cetera, it's like, oh, look, the 40-year-old did do what he needed to do. Even better, look at this. He just blatantly trips him. Like, joke as you will. You want to talk about a little bit of savvy? Like, kudos to him. I'm kind of serious. Like, that's just a trip. But that's as clean a block as you're going to get off of a blatant trip. And Swift sees color, doesn't like it, and takes it back up the middle to where he's got no help. Ben, I've been covering this team for long enough to say that could have been a TD. We say that a lot in this town. We say that a lot in this town. Chances are, realistically, before we get too excited, chances are if he stays outside, he's one-on-one with 24, and then he has to beat him, right? Like, it's all a matter of what would he do one-on-one with 24, and frankly, maybe that's what Swift saw. I don't know. But either way, we go from a positive down to a negative down. So now it's 3rd and 6. We've got to take forever. And look at this. People talk about tempo all the time, but like, watch 44 here. They have been living in the film room. They get it clean. Defenses against the Bears get a clean check it consistently. Like, the Bears don't motion and then run a play. The Bears motion and stop. And what do we get out of it? We get another pick play where DJ's running another clear out route, this time for Cole Kmet. We get Keenan Allen on a whip route. We get a one-on-one to Rome, which probably, I mean, so look, I'm a big one-on-one guy, right? After the Fields, so Ben says nothing there. Look, let's talk opinions, okay? Philosophy, all right? You can run the pick play if you want. The moment you're running it for Cole Kmet, I personally think you're lost. Like, I would rather run the pick play either for DJ or for Keenan Allen, because the moment you're asking your tight end to separate given a step against a DB, well, you're not going to get much. Like, for instance, Michael Dotson says that looks slow as hell for Kmet. That's fast as hell for a tight end. He's just not going up against a linebacker. This isn't a matchup that we're supposed to like. And then DJ gets clamped too. Like, DJ is smoked. So if he was running a corner route, he's not open. And then when you look at Keenan Allen is not open. Maybe you could stuff this ball to him, but with a linebacker sitting over the middle, there you go. The pre-snap read, in my opinion, always should have been the one-on-one, because we like this. I mean, it's my favorite receiver on the Bears up against a great corner of theirs. And do we get some separation? I think so. It's a curl route. I have a master's degree in curl routes. If you run them well and you throw them well, they're almost impossible to cover. And if Caleb's got the ball out right now, you might actually just get a play, but you don't get to opt back into this. Like picking the play, Jibby says Caleb doesn't like throwing one-on-one. I don't blame Caleb within the framework of the offense for taking the pick route. I just don't think Cole is ever going to get open against a team that is in a banjo set, right? Like, at least for me, when I'm looking at this and I see corners at different depths, just like they're supposed to be, I would like to be thinking, okay, so I don't think we're getting a chip on them. And if we're not getting a chip on them, I don't really like any of these matchups. But that's, in my opinion, some second and third level quarterbacking that I don't expect from a rookie that at this point is starting to enter fight for his life mode. Like, Jibby, you mentioned he has to recognize and process that. When you're a rookie, you do a lot of what the coach tells you to do. Like, Jared Goff might say, I don't really like to do it like that. And the offensive coordinator would say, okay, you know what? That works. But when Caleb says, I don't really like to do it like that, Shane says, well, that's what we do in the NFL. And that's the argument. I mean, for better or for worse, I've just seen the same with any rookie quarterback, in my experience, that if the offense does not already cater to what they like doing, then they generally have to learn whatever the other offense is. Now, we got to throw the ball somewhere, right? Like, this sack is absolutely unacceptable. You could say what you will about everybody being clamped up. You have to get this ball out. I don't care if you turn and you flick it over Rome Odunze's head. It does not matter, right? The moment that you are taking a snap at the 31, you cannot get sacked here with a kicker that can't kick more than about 54 yards. You can't do that. But we do. We take a sack at the 40, we lose 3 points. Every point would have mattered. Every point would have mattered. Especially just given the way the thing worked. From a pass pro perspective, what I think is funny is that the pass pro's all right. Like, this works. You can count to 4, especially with a bunch of backups. Like, this will do. We even get Roschon Johnson slugging a linebacker. Like, they bring 15 over here, and Roschon gets right up in there. We get to count to 4. You can't take a sack there. You can't take a sack there. But we do. And yes, it's a rookie learning moment. But with the team in this kind of disarray, people remember these. It would be way cooler if they didn't have, or if Caleb Williams and the Bears were not giving other fans the license to say this thing would be better with Bajan, but they're not. Also, I think these kind of suck. Can I be honest? Like, I think that this is another one of these choice routes where, because it looks like Keenan skips off the line, and so this is basically, hey, throw it to Keenan. When he turns around, just throw it to him, right? Pooh. Hooray. Great. We get 3 yards. This is so much effort. And not only that, but Keenan turns and settles. Watch Keenan's feet. Turn, settle. And then the ball's out wide. Why is the ball out wide? Because doesn't it look like he's going to keep running to the out? So the ball is off his frame because nobody has any idea where they're supposed to be. Or at least after 10 weeks, these guys don't trust each other on what their signals mean or what the coverage alignments mean or how they're trying to get to it. So is it a Caleb processing issue? I don't know. I guess I have to put it there, right? Like if I have to assign the grading, I need to. But I don't blame the quarterback for expecting the receiver to continue his path. And I'm beyond, Ben, I don't know if you're feeling like I am. I just don't understand how after this long, they're not on the same page. I mean, misfires are one thing, but you see a play like that and you're like, how does this keep happening? Like, Donald, you mentioned the receiver play is shocking. I think the misalignments are embittering. Like, they don't look like they have any idea where anybody's going to be. They don't look like they trust each other. Some of them don't look like they want to be there at all. Sweet play. Everybody down blocks. You get Jenkins and Kmet coming across the formation. Swift basically gets told, close your eyes and go up the B gap and or the D gap. And they do, and they get like 6 yards. Right, Reinhardt. 17 weeks into the offense, they look like they learned it last week. Then we get this play. I don't know if you've seen it on All-22, but it is really awful. Like, in my opinion, so when JT talked about this, he talks about how he didn't like what is effectively, it's an RSO, all right? R-un-S screen O-P-T-I-O-N. It's a run screen option, right? And in college, sometimes you see a quarterback run element added. And I think I personally don't like almost any quarterback run outside of guys that you know are wide open, et cetera, et cetera. Ben, you mentioned that Caleb says he should have handed this one off. I don't really agree. Like, Caleb sees a 3-on-3. There's nothing wrong with thinking 3-on-3. Like, especially if you've got a block here and a block here, pretend. I know you can't do this on the Bears. I know you've literally never been able to do this on the Bears, okay? But pretend for a moment that you told me that you could get DJ the ball in space right here with one guy to go get him and 10 yards of space to beat him. Do you feel good enough in DJ getting those yards? I don't see why you wouldn't have, right? Like, and that's the thing, Ben. If he said that's what the coaching told him, there you go. But I don't have any problem with taking this. I like space. my first offense was Matt Nagy, and the Andy Reid offense is all about space. And space gets you matchups, and I like this. This is why you brought DJ onto the team. Then it gets even better, because this nickel corner is coming on a blitz, and he overcommits, right? So now all we got to do is block this guy and block this guy. And if we can get around him, it's 31 chasing us, and that's it, right? Like, I actually still don't know if you're going to score if you squeeze through everybody, but you might. Because Donald mentions this is a great play. Donald, this is just the wrong time for a nickel blitz. And that's okay. Like, it's a basic play, but you catch the Patriots with the wrong defensive call on. With the problem being, now watching slow motion as Keenan Allen loses his man, does not turn around for the next man, loses the next man, and DJ gets tackled. I will let it slide that I think DJ's good enough to beat this guy sometimes, right? I'll let that go. But, Keenan, what are we doing? Like, what is this? Okay, you missed him. Go get the next guy. Instead, we are literally ball watching. Like, we are ball watching on a play like this. And Jibby, you mentioned they have DJ playing like running back. I think, Jibby, you can be just as disappointed as I illustrated in the first hour and a half of this show and still say DJ taking a Debo role is not bad. I know Debo hates it. It made him millions of dollars. DJ would be good at this. This is something DJ is good at. Get him the ball. Let him go get you yak. Nothing about this is bad. It just didn't work. And I think it's easy sometimes for us to take the knowledge of the results and say SMH usage. And that's not always the case. There's plenty of questions about usage, but not always. Then the Bears run the most basic play action bootleg that you could possibly run. They run it out of an actual condensed run look, and shocker, it's wide open. It's not hard. Nobody's going to Canton for this. Nobody's going to Canton for this. But this is the only easy completion of the day. There are other chances for some. But then Ben says, so then did we run this 4 more times? I'll tell you who would have been Luke Getsy. I'll tell you who would have been Matt Nagy. And here we are. They don't ever run it again. I mean, Ben, do you remember when Matt Nagy ran this 8 times a game against the Packers and against the Packers and the Jags, and he went into that playoff game and the Saints safeties rolled down and put Bears players back on the bench? Like, I mean, I don't know if you remember that personally, Ben, but I do, where those film reviews were ghastly. It was like, these Saints players know what is coming, and this box cat would just rip down into space and light guys in the flat up, and it was brutal. Yeah, laser pew pew. But so then they're gonna pull somebody over, and say what you will, one thing that really bugs me, prove me wrong, Bears, is the Bears have this habit, of going mini motion, right? Like, they go mini motion in the gun. And what is it about this formation that you just know the Bears aren't running the ball? Like, there's not even a threat. When they go under center, at least there's the vague threat of the I-form or of the run. Remember years ago, this is gonna become like what do you call it? It's going to become a stream with a lot of references. So the ones that have been with me, you're going to know. And the ones that this goes over your head, I'm just going to make it clear how long I've been doing this, right? Remember when we would review stuff like Matt Nagy running the I formation, and we found out slowly but surely the Bears actually weren't getting any yardage out of running the I formation, but they were killing in play action when they lined up in the I formation because they weren't getting any yardage out of the I formation when they ran the ball, but were committed to doing it, right? Like the Bears would line up in the I in 2019, 2020, and they would just mash the ball for no yardage whatsoever. But then when they hit play action off of it, they got guys wide open wherever they wanted to on the edges of the field because everybody pinched in on them. Formation tendencies are major. And the fact that the Bears don't run the ball out of the gun ever, right? Whatever that looks like. That could be bring somebody across. That could be quarterback shock power. That could be that could be some kind of trap run. Any kind of trap run. That could be inside zone. That could be anything, but they don't do it, right? And because they don't do it, these teams just aren't shocked. So they let the Bears throw whatever punch they've got at them. And in this case, it's another pick play where the Bears only answer. You've seen it on Twitter that the Patriots ran a snot load of man coverage. And when they did, the Bears' only answer was, well, let's run a pick play. And so they just, no worries, Reinhardt. They run a pick play. Kudos to DJ. DJ does his job, picks the man. Caleb takes the throw. It's the second easy completion of the day. To say it's not fair. It's the only halfway decent drive, anyways. And then is this that play? Okay, hang on. If you can pick up on what I'm getting at. Let me see. I'm waiting to see when Jenkins gets injured because I see Jenkins bobbling on that. Jenkins looked so upset, by the way. Like being in the stadium, Jenkins' body language was my career just ended. Or maybe it was I'm not getting that second contract. Jenkins looked absolutely shot. And I thought it was really sad. Like, say what you will. People talk about injuries. It's never the player. Like, the player doesn't get to control this kind of thing. I am a little shocked, by the way, so I don't care. Whatever. The Bears have gotten plenty of calls. How this isn't a neutral zone infraction is beyond me. Like, the guy gets 2 feet dead center neutral zone. You can say he didn't cross the center, but I have always seen this called a neutral zone infraction. So when Caleb rears back and flicks up a nothing burger, like, this is a non-competitive throw. I'm not stoked about it. You don't need to be stoked about it. But Caleb's decision-making on thinking he has a free play, I get that one. Decent job by the Bears of picking up the blitz, too. Caleb has no feel for these. I know it's an easy target to criticize, but I do think that Bears fans probably ought to stop making nothing out of this. Caleb's bizarre. So Caleb's like, what do you call it? So in the world of college, I don't know how to draw this, so I'll just say it, okay? In college, one of the best things about Caleb Williams was his feel for the game. You could feel that he knew where everybody was just by the nature of he could close their eyes and see them, right? It was an almost Daredevil-like, if you will, just sense for where everybody is. That backside edge rusher, I know where they are 9 times out of 10. My check down, I know where they are 9 times out of 10. My number one receiver, I can come back to them because I know where they are 9 times out of 10. And right now, Caleb is thinking through everything and feeling nothing. And I don't know if he's trying to feel it. I don't know if he is trying to feel it and just isn't feeling anything. I don't know what to tell you. But on his tape, the magic wasn't the running around. You guys watched this with me, okay? It wasn't the running around. It was the seemingly, this guy knows where people are even if you blindfolded him. And at the NFL, that's not a thing right now. And Jibby, to talk to a future version of myself, or maybe a past version of myself, this does seem like something that would come with experience. I hope it doesn't come with experience after he eats 17 games worth of bad habits, but his understanding of that does seem like something that you would need to work to translate, as opposed to the polish of somebody like Jaden Daniels. We can say whatever we want about the guy Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner's words were, if you want the best quarterback, you take Jaden Daniels. Now, if you're taking Caleb Williams because he has the potential to be the best quarterback in this class, I think that's completely understandable when you look at this, and this. And I think that ended up being a much better description of what this quarterback class was than I was going to understand. And that's what you get when you've been around the game for 30 years. It's the ability to come to something like that and then explain it so well. Thank you so much. But anyways, Caleb, on plays like this, there's just, the ball's got to be better. Free play or not. Like, decision, neat. This physical mistake is happening way too often. Like, this is non-competitive. And no, Cole Kmet isn't open. And no, Rome Odunze isn't open. And yeah, it's really weird that they're both within 5 yards of each other with a whole NFL field to work with. That's pretty strange. But the throw still has to be better. And you don't need me to tell you that. Like you're saying, Ben, you got to plant it on the body because at least Rome gives you a shot at a contested catch. But it's back to this whole point of, okay, I've been saying this on the podcast lately. We got to live in the world of and, right? The offense looks awful, making Caleb hard to watch and hard to evaluate. And Caleb isn't hard to watch just because of the offense. Like, this is hard to watch in part because Caleb looks like the weight, the word I guess that came to me first was the burden of the offense is becoming too heavy for him. And whether or not you think that is Shane's fault or Caleb's fault for not being able to carry it, I will leave that to you. I'm trying to satisfy both of my audiences here, the people that agree with me and the people that disagree. So I'm going to call it as it is, right? That on the objective scale, this is not good enough. And I doubt you needed me to tell you that. But you know I like him. You know that I don't like at least what I'm seeing on tape. And I'll let you make whatever decision you want to. Because it's funny, right? Then the Bears go with another one of these pick-like plays. And again, we're going to look at Cole Kmet open. But when we do, I don't personally like this, okay? Like, looking at the routes, you've got what is basically a curl pick flat, which I don't even know if that's in the read. Chances are it's Cole Kmet as the 1. And if not, he's the number 2. Now, Daniel, I have a rule on this channel that I will warn you about, all right? Once you start comparing your quarterback to Josh Allen, it's probably over. But so, anyways, he's just the outlier of outliers. The other read is generally going to be the flat. So that's your CD. But normally I've seen this as a pick aside, right? So the problem is when you put DeAndre Swift on this side of the ball against this kind of a wide front, like, look at how wide 9 this is. Don't look at Cole Kmet because, I mean, in the world of this, he doesn't matter. We are really wide 9. The moment that 56 sits down right here, I don't really blame Caleb personally for not sitting underneath or for not wanting to thread this ball, because that's a much harder throw than you get value out of, if you follow. Can you make this? Is this NFL open? Bluntly, yes, right? Like, Ben, you say there's no throw. There is. There's a teardrop or not a teardrop. It'd be like a small rope over this linebacker and into Cole's hands, and you have to do it right on the sideline, like way out there, right? But all you're going to get is 6 yards for what could be an underneath interception when in a normal setting, you're hoping that this guy comes at you. So when he doesn't, Caleb Williams works towards the middle of the field. And when he works towards the middle of the field, he sees Rome Odunze pretty well covered. I mean, for what it's worth, I do think that this is open enough in the future for what we want out of Rome. But instead, he works his way back across the field. DJ Moore is running a dig route. And what is this? It looks like DJ's running a dig and Keenan's running another choice route. But Keenan breaks back into the middle of the field. Caleb's vision sees the two of them. He takes the shorter completion. This is actually a solid play. Like, Caleb works left to right. He sees space he doesn't like. It's a muddy read. Stays fairly poised in the pocket. Finds a solid throw. Like, I'm explaining all of the pieces. I'm pointing out. Ben, I'm trying to show, just so we're on the same page. Like, I'm not saying you have to throw it, you have to throw it, you have to throw it. I'm saying I've seen some guys like Justin Herbert that'll just pipe that ball to Kmet. So Caleb doesn't want to be that guy. Caleb seems as if he wants to throw to better or to open guys with space. I don't think there's an issue with that. I think the hope should be that your guys can go get you that space, especially when you've got enough space to work with. Good on Caleb for understanding that he had a pocket there. But I don't know. 2nd and 15 to 3rd and 4. Here's another you tell me play. The Bears run another pick play, and Keenan sets us a perfect pick. A perfect pick. Like, look at this. Keenan hits us with that veteran pick. Okay? Caleb throws the ball, and it's way off. And I'm going to explain to you two things. Okay? We've got a perfect pick. We've got a ton of space. You have to hit this throw. It doesn't matter what I'm about to show you next. You have to hit this throw. Here's the ball. It lands right there. But so the line of gains is 28-yard line. Okay? DJ hits the 28-yard line, and he turns his shoulders. Whenever I have ever seen a halfback flat, the route goes flat. DJ is at the 28-yard line. DJ drifts to the 31-yard line. And the ball lands catchable at the 28-yard line. It's not the 28, it's the 32. I'm a dumb dingus, and that's the 29. But you tell me, is DJ drifting, and therefore Caleb thinks he's going to shank off the route like normally happens? Is DJ allowed to drift because he's got yardage and he wants to go take it? You tell me. You can make whatever decision you want to. All I can tell you is that anybody, you don't have to be 30 years old. You don't have to be an offensive coordinator to know that you have to hit a throw like this. Like, whatever you think, this has to be a completion. It has to be a completion. So who's on the wrong page? I can't tell you. I can just tell you that he cuts at the depth that the ball lands at directly out. And the receiver isn't there anymore. And the receiver drifts to space that he knows he has. And if that ball's there, like if it's a little higher, it probably gets to him anyways. So the fact that Caleb's footwork is pretty messy, because if you look at Caleb's footwork on this, why are we throwing it like that? Why are we stepping out to the left? Why? I don't know. Maybe we're thinking about a hit. But there you go. Magic, like, I hear what you mean. That's why I'm going to present it to you. I've done this for 5 years, for what it's worth, Magic, where, in my opinion, I'm going to show you the options. You get to make the choice on what you think happened. And I've gotten to the point where I'll tell you kind of what I think happened and leave it up to you to decide. If you think the kid's cooked, there you go. If you think that that's clearly on DJ, there you go. I'll let you guys litigate it. On a play like this, we get hosed. Caleb looks to his left, and traditionally, I think that you'd get things. So it's already scuffed because the moment that we go out and flat, or like we go stick flat, basically, we're expecting one of these guys to pinch in, and certainly this guy to rush. And the moment he doesn't rush, we are McHosed. So we've picked the wrong side on what is the other way, triple slant. So if we're on it, we get to Keenan, but we're not. And so because we picked the other side, Keenan runs direct into space. So now you've got nothing to work with at all. Caleb runs. Given the options, works out. It's fourth down. Got to go get it. Most important thing to do on fourth down is to pick it up one way or another. Also, this guy dropping off the line of scrimmage, you got us. I don't think he told on himself. I think it's an acceptable pre-snap read, especially for a rookie. You make your own decision. I'd love more completions too, but I don't think it's a bad decision. Trail around. Run play. I'm just going to skip it. Oh, Ben, that's the thing, man. Almost 100 pass plays. No interceptions. That's something. Positive run. Gets out into space, breaks a tackle. Good for you, Swift. I'm calling it, by the way, at 10:30, fellas. This one bums me out. I only have so much of this game in me. They run the ball again. They clearly don't like their pass game because they go run, 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 2nd and 11, switch the formation, run, 3rd and 10. Finally, a pass. And it is my honest opinion that nothing's here on this one. You get dig flat. I've seen this concept sometimes where it's like you go corner, you go, I think he's running a whip, and then I don't know what this route is called. It's just like you go across, and then Keenan sometimes darts up, right? So maybe if you stick it on Keenan Allen, you get a completion, but these guys are hunting it. Like, these Patriots don't have any questions, and if you are trying to pick up first down, why bother, right? So then maybe as you roll out, you put the ball up for Rome. But with this safety sitting underneath it, fam, I don't know. Like, it is my opinion that I've seen a lot of these. So here's my problem, right? I used, when I was younger, to be like, you got to put the ball up into the corner. I have seen a lot of quarterbacks try it. This guy gets it like 7 times out of 10. You tell yourself it's 4. It's a lot more than that. And it's a terrible interception that always looks way worse than you think it is. And so, anyways, nobody's open. Caleb looks to try to, it seems, create for Rome to come open. He doesn't. Throw the ball, take the field goal. So be it. And Ben, like you're mentioning, if he stays into the pocket, he gets Keenan into a window. In that same time, the pocket probably survives. Yeah. But I also don't necessarily think that that it's a bad thing for Caleb to start moving at that point. And I don't blame Caleb for not trusting anybody. Now, it would be cooler if he did. It would be a plus if he did. I think buddy ball would work out better for Caleb than at least what we've seen right now. But that's part of the issue with this, isn't it, Ben? So I remember, okay, who are the real ones? Jibby, I think you were one of these real ones. Do y'all remember when during the playoffs we watched a bunch of Purdy tape? Because we just got really sick of watching the 2022 Bears, and we kind of did an offensive tour around the league. And so, in prep for a playoff game, we watched a bunch of rookie Purdy tape. If you remember, great. I remember that Purdy offense was pretty ugly, actually. I mean, there were deep shots downfield that we didn't take. There were deep shots downfield that we flat out missed. There were a lot of stuff that was open that we hit, but there was a whole lot of checking the ball down to Christian McCaffrey, and Christian McCaffrey just ripping teams up. Purdy ended up with like 235, 240 yards in some cases, with 100 of that being dumping it down to Christian McCaffrey for 8 yards at a time. There is some truth to the idea that behind most great quarterback performances is an offense that made everything that was wrong right anyways. And in my opinion, the hardest part to watch about this is the same thing as the hardest part to watch about the Justin days, is that this offense is taking things that are right and making them wrong. It's taking things that are wrong and making them extremely wrong. It's taking things that are fine and making them also wrong. And it's taking things that are wrong and amplifying them. And so it's a hard offense to watch because never give the quarterback easy answers. And even the easy answers, by the way, Jordan, look ugly. So here we get, is it another? Hard to tell if it's another choice route or not, but it looks like we're staring at Keenan Allen. We should get off it sooner. We don't. So by the time we get to our second read in Cole Kmet, because we're honest to God, we are just a little late. But so instead of veteran presence, we're rookie presence. We feel the rush, and we have to dance and flick the ball out of bounds. This is not poise. This is not good. But it is life with Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton. You're going to take some fat L's. Also, hate to say it, Doug Kramer, rough, fam. Rough. Real bad. I mean, stoked for Doug. Living the NFL dream, right? We can say whatever you want. But, Doug Kramer has touched the NFL field a lot more often than we have. But he is struggling at guard. And that's the thing, Jib. I do think we do this a little too quickly. Okay, Jibby, I want to call you out. I want to call you out at Rex 100%. So, Jibby, I want to call you out, not because you said anything wrong, but just because I hear this a lot, right? The insurance salesman, that guy's going to be plumbing, et cetera, et cetera. I do think we ought to put a little more respect on anybody who plays actual snaps at any point in their life, almost regardless of circumstance. I know, Jibby, but Doug Kramer is struggling, right? Sam Musfer back in the day, struggling. But it is amazing he got this far. And I think that part is cool. The story of football within this. But so anyways, the Bears run the pick play again, and Cole Kmet can't get open. I'm telling you, they have one answer to man coverage, and it is the same pick. It's the same pick over and over and over. And here, you could even argue the throw is kind of there. But Caleb sees three people show up in his face, feels another show up behind him, and loses his cool. I don't even know that he's wrong to do it. Kmet's not out of his break yet. You put that ball up, you don't know what's going to happen. And I can tell you who thinks, oh, it's actually over here. I remember watching this game. I was there. Flus is over there making a face saying, don't you dare put that ball in harm's way. You better not make life hard on our defense. I mean, it's just happening at this point. I would tell you about phantom stuff, but it's just too often. And so he takes a look, sees the opportunity to run the ball, and there you go. Not to mention, it is a shame that the number one route resolves later than the number two route. DJ gets open. DJ gets quite open, except for the fact that, again, we've got this is happening way too often. As I watch the tape, the other part that really bugs me. So Rome gets bodied. By the way, it looks like Rome is trying to run a big slant, but instead we get this. So you tell me. And what is it? Here's the car seat, and here's the seatbelt. Right? Strapped. And so another thing that I'm seeing a lot of is that we are getting a lot of one Patriots defender defending Swift and somebody else at the same time. I don't know about you guys. I think that's kind of embarrassing that in 20 some odd offensive plays, we've already seen 4 examples of one guy just hard bracketing two Bears offensive players. It's like, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Make my life easy. And it's a good run. Like Jibby, I agree with you. I think when I watch this tape, it feels so hard. Like we can't sit here and say, "Hey, that's a good process. Hey, that's a good run. Hey, that's this. Hey, that's that." Because the more often we do that, the more you're going to tell me that Caleb got an acceptable amount that I think is unacceptable out of an offensive like showing that didn't deserve anything, which maybe that's your take. If it is, go off, King. But it's a shame that we're here. It is a massive and colossal organizational failure that we are here. The fact that we're asking this question is an organizational failure. And the fact that we're here is everything I've ever lived through. I don't have better answers. I was at this game. It shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't take L's like this. Do you need me to take you to center school and tell you, yeah, we did run out of the shotgun. Lordy, lordy. He takes the snap for him. To New England. And then you get this. Like, it's funny, Jib. You talked about the last play. Or what is it? I will tell you honestly, if I was drawing up routes, DJ's drift feels to me like a receiver error. This is a plain Jane quarterback error. I didn't think it was at the time, but this is just a misfire. Like, there is no explanation. Rome runs the route exactly like he's always run the route, but Caleb plants his front foot off to the side, and we just don't step through the throw. We wrist shot it. Biomechanically, we're pulling back as we throw the ball, and this thing just whistles completely uncatchably off to the side. He does look scared to get hit in a play like this. And that's not going to last. So now what could have been 3rd and 3 is 3rd and 14. And this ball gets tipped, but you can tell it's bad when you've been so inaccurate that you lose the benefit of the doubt altogether and nobody cares anymore. Like, DJ's open. Whatever. And this definitely got tipped, right? Yes. Plain tip. You could see the spin of the ball completely alter. But it's still off target. Like, love it, but it's still upper right side of the frame. It's not that. I don't even know if it's that off target. It's tipped. But pre-snap wise, we're looking at 2 seams with 2 curls. Kmet gets bodied. Somebody sits underneath. So instead of pick a side, we pick Rome. We don't pick DJ. DJ is standing wide open. There's an element of this where the Patriots got you. Like, that's life. We ran, it's actually the post thing. Like, it's not a seam. It's more of a post. They ran this week 1. I'm realizing this now. But in the world of tough luck, kid, DJ's wide open. We don't like him. And we don't throw him the ball, or we don't look his way. We go for the check down, and we are not having fun playing football. We'll do one more drive. We go with the same curl we've been trying to run. We finally get the completion. Only takes 3 tries. Yeah, Austin, I know. But the people want it. Anticipation. Finally normal. Completion. Run the ball out of a tight look. Up the gut. Yardage. Patriots front isn't good enough to even stop a backup offensive line. You gotta leverage that. Was DJ happy on that, Ben? He looked like he tried. We put Everett in the game. We go play action. So it's a sack. You can't take a sack on play action. They take too long. What is Keenan doing? You tell me. Pretend you're the wide receivers coach. What do you tell him? It looks like we have given Keenan free reign to try to get open in the middle of the field, which I would be a lot more down for if he could do it. But that's not going to work. We are not going to get open doing that. Then we've got a corner route that gets bracketed. You got to get this ball to Swift or you got to get it over somebody's head. Those are your options on this play. I wish we had somebody open on play action, but we don't. And yeah, like Ben mentions, it sure doesn't help anything that Kramer gets bodied. But that's my thing, Eric. I've seen a lot of people say, well, yeah, but the Panthers offense actually looked pretty solid. And I'm like, that may be Frank Reich being decent. And then Thomas Brown gets the trigger and calls plays that make sense for that. A lot of this design is just terrible. And the players that they're asking to make plays for them are not making plays for them. It's funny, Jibby, right? You mentioned Caleb looks so much like Bryce Young. Can I just tell you, Jibby, I do disagree, right? So here's my thing. I've watched enough Bryce Young, okay? Bryce is scared of the pocket. Caleb is resiliently trying, stubbornly. Let's use the word stubbornly. Resiliently is too nice a word, right? But Caleb is stubbornly trying to prove that he is a pocket passer. Jibby, here's the good news for you, okay? Look, Jib, lean in with me. You've seen a lot of busts. You know what they look like. You've seen them, right? Caleb's production is really bad. But if you go through the 2024 season, the good news, if there is good news, is that if you made a highlight reel of Caleb's best plays, they are not Zach Wilson's highlights, right? A lot of these guys that are athletic superstars come out of college and have absolutely no, they have absolutely no feel for pocket passing. I'm looking at you, Bo. If you've seen the Broncos tape, you know what I'm talking about. These guys actually do way more creation and throwing when out of the pocket than you realize. Bryce Young in particular had to get up on his tippy toes or jump to try to get the ball over the line in many cases. I know that's going to sound drastic, but if you go back and you watch the old Panthers tape, that's what's going on, where Bryce takes the first excuse he can to get outside of the pocket and try to reframe any down he's working with from there. And the Panthers moved the launch point a ton because they were trying to basically not deal with the pocket as much as they didn't have to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Caleb doesn't like getting hit, but you can work with that in a quarterback. Quarterback's the only player on the football field where it's okay being soft, right? But this is a bad habit. This is how you get to the Cutler thing if you keep it up. If you never learn to trust your offensive line, it doesn't work. Like, just so that we're all on the same page, this can't keep progressing, right? You can't keep doing this. But the good news for Caleb Williams is the cover 2 shot he hit against Washington, is the interception that he attempted against, but it's actually a dot to Rome's face against Indianapolis. It's the rips over the middle of the field against the Jaguars. It's the rips over the middle of the intermediate against Carolina. It's a couple big throws against Los Angeles. This is going to sound like I'm reaching, but it isn't. Where I don't think it is. Where if you look at where Caleb has succeeded, he has succeeded at a lot of the things that you have to do, and he hasn't lived off of any of the stuff that he's supposed to be naturally good at. And like you're talking about, Jibby, teams will just blitz him, and he won't stand and rip it. You're right. Teams are blitzing the snot out of CJ Stroud right now, and he's getting lit up. Teams have blitzed Lamar Jackson, and he has gotten lit up. It happens. Then you got to grow through it. I'm not telling you that it's easy to grow through. I'm not telling you, Jibby, it's a given. I'm telling you that the let's just blitz the snot out of him plan happens to everybody eventually, and it dummies a lot of good quarterbacks. Not everybody is Mahomes, where they come out of the womb able to throw against the blitz with uncanny ability. Many good quarterbacks got destroyed by the blitz at some point. The biggest problem is more along what Jordan said, that if the Bears don't figure something out, teams like Brian Flores, dude, Jordan, you mentioned Flores, like, I'm worried about the Lions because the Lions are just going to middle finger this Bears offense, and they don't need a blitz. Like, they'll just send one more guy, a basic pressure, and be like, no, we're good. We'll go 4-on-4 with one guy in man and one guy in the underneath middle finger, right? And right now the Bears don't have answers. Maybe they'll develop an answer. They should have the talent to have an answer, but maybe they'll develop an answer. They didn't today. Here you get another drop back in trips. Ugly. I think it's ugly. Like, looking at this, here's my problem, okay? Oh, don't watch any of this. Don't watch any of this for a brief moment. Let's see if that sticks. That's some solid separation. We do a lot of effort to pick for Keenan Allen, and Keenan punches into he punches into the shoulder of his DB and gets some great separation. That's great. That's great. Now let's watch what happened over here. They blitz. Roshan gets smoked alongside, who's that? Is that Kramer again? Kramer gets popped again. And now you've got a young quarterback having to make a choice. Do I throw this ball to right there and trust that they're actually going to get there? That's probably what he ought to do. Or do I step up and figure it out? He chooses the latter. And I don't know if they actually credited this one as a sack. If they did, that's probably not fair. Should be like a 1-yard run. And if they did credit it as a 1-yard run, dadgum. That's 10 sacks or 10 like quarterback tackles. It's the kind of choice that you're excited that you got him to make if you're the Patriots. It's the kind of choice that as a Bears fan, you don't want him to make. Yeah, Ben, ideally step up and throw it, but good luck in this offensive ecosystem healthily getting to that point. There is a momentum piece to this. And I can't believe I'm saying it because I just think it's weird, but it does feel like the bye killed any natural momentum that they had. Like, Jibby, you mentioned he won't throw against the blitz because he's scared of being hit. He threw against the blitz a lot against teams that don't have defenses. Patriots defense isn't even that great, but they don't have quick answers. At the same time, you got to figure something out. Quarterbacks got to play better. Well, everybody's got to play better. I feel like Donald wants to see it, so I will skip forward. Oh, I'll show one of these. This is unacceptable. You don't need some truckload of analysis and pretty words for me to explain that this is unacceptable. And in my opinion, when I start saying things like Caleb looks fried, this is what I'm talking about. Where we get a free and easy opportunity to lollipop a first down. And we're at the point where, look at that body language. I mean, this reminds me of Cutler. We are short arming it. We don't want to take that hit. We're not willing to expose ourselves to it. And we miss bad. You can see it much clearer here. That is bad. But at the same time, Jib, it's funny, right? You talk about scared of getting hit. And it's like, well, yeah. Let me see. NFL most sacks ever. Sorry. Taken single season. So, good old David Carr, 76 sacks. Caleb Williams, 38 sacks. 17 game average, 72 sacks. Randall Cunningham, 72 sacks. So, when you talk about him being scared of getting hit, Jib, not shocked. He's getting hit way too often. Is it a him thing? It's part of it. Always is. But he's taking way too many hits. Do we force the ball to commit here? I can't remember. Yes. No. We try to force it to DJ. I want to show these because they were just wild. Nothing works for a game. We all watched it. Blah, blah, blah. Is this the play? Yeah, here it is. And then you get to the point where the offense basically gives up. And I mean, you could feel it in the stadium. Like, what's the plan here? What's going on? Rome runs it hard, but there's not much of a route there. DJ runs forward and turns around for us. We don't even throw it. Why aren't we throwing the ball? It's one of the worst plays I've ever seen. Did they practice this? This reminds me of the Nagy days where I'm like, did this work in practice? Did you like this? Did you think this was good? Did you think this was cool? Did this work? I don't know. Kudos to Rome. He's trying. But goodness. Then a couple plays later, in case you were curious, it was like somebody told Shane Waldron move the launch point, and he went, okay, if you really need me to. And then we run this one. What are we doing? Who greenlit this? Keenan looks like he's trying to run a pick for DJ. Did we pick him? No. No, we didn't. Rozzy, he's the passing game coordinator. Wouldn't actually be weird. But yeah, Bears fans. It's fucking terrible. I already had one. I can do a second. Look at this. Look at this. Who's wrong? Who's wrong? Everybody is. Everybody is. Everybody is on this side of the ball. They're all wrong. We get 4 false starts. You get 4 false starts. Not only do you have one of my pet peeves, which is the dumb dingus, we're going to put our running back on the line like we think he's good at it. No, he's not. Everybody knows. Everybody knows, but you can't. False start, false start, false start. Put me in the grave. I thank you, censored. 4th and 10. Oh my God, they ran it again. So first of all, I would like a better throw. I guess at least you can say Caleb is eating a fat sack as he lets this go. So if you wanted anything to let this throw be kind of a lollipop, there you go. Also, I am just going to say it because if I don't know, you're probably thinking about it. It would be awfully cool to catch this. Or call DPI, because I'm just saying, I mean, he's there early. Underthrown DP or like underthrown ball or not, he is there early. That's what the call's for. But it is pretty funny that here we are, Jib. Here we are, Donald. Here we are, Ben. We're looking at man coverage again, right? And what's our answer? We're going to run another out. It's the only play we've run all game. You would think that this is some kind of a practice game. Like, they ran cover 1, and the Bears went, how many plays do we have to beat that? 1? And that was that. Bates takes an L. That's life. Well, John, they only get to work once. So if it didn't work, that means the next time you call it, it's going to work. Right? Yeah, in my opinion, all right, so I'll close out with this. I'm bummed. Life is pain. Eat Arby's. But at least what I'm seeing, I think there is legitimate evidence that Caleb is taking coaching. I think the coaching he's taking is bad, and he's getting worse because of it. That is my opinion of what is happening. I sound like every other Bears podcaster in saying that, but I like to think I have track record and film evidence of like showing why I think that, so that you can make your own decision. I think Jordan asks, how much scar tissue is he taking? Too much. Any is too much. I don't think coming back from this is ever easy. It's not. And any Bears fan in here, I want to warn you, okay? I want to warn you. I really do. The start matters. Joe Burrow is partially where he is because he got hurt and didn't endure 11 more games of the Bengals being terrible. Maybe the Bears have a guy resilient enough to figure it out anyways. But the harder games are coming. And if the easy ones were this bad, then the hard ones really worry me. And there is a chance that if you are like me and you loved Caleb Williams, that we are about to watch the Bears just ruin him. There's a chance. Like, I'm telling you, Jibby, that there are going to be a lot of people in a lot of circles that are going to be like, Caleb Williams is a bust. And then there are going to be a lot of other people that are going to say Caleb Williams doesn't have a chance. And at the end of the day, if it ends us up at the same thing, then who cares which one was true? Does it make a difference? If a bird falls, or if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a sound? And I hope that that's not what happens. But I don't know if I can say that's what I think is going to be the case. You follow? I have hoped a lot with the Bears, but they've taught me to think differently. They've taught me to think that we know what's going on. They've taught me to think that the worst case is coming. I mean, like Ben's saying, here Caleb creates sicko throw. Look at this. Look at this. Drop. What's the lesson? Don't do this? Is the lesson force it somewhere else? This is a rookie is what you anticipated. This is what you thought you were getting. $23 million a year. Throwing his helmet in week 2. Catch a fucking ball, DJ. You want to act like that? Make a play. Maybe you get the ball again. I don't know. It's embarrassing. It's all embarrassing. And like Rex is saying, Jaden Daniels gets a decent situation to work with. Looks like a star. Looks like a star. And now that he looks like a star and believes in himself, why would he stop being a star? Right? Like, we can say what we will about, oh, look at how CJ Stroud looks. Whatever. Like, truly. He'll be all right. CJ's been there and done that. He can have some struggle moments, just like Justin Herbert has, and I'm sure he will be fine. But now look at Trevor Lawrence, okay? Trevor Lawrence went through a bad one, and he's never really put the pieces back together, has he? How much better is Matt Eberflus than Urban Meyer? Before you tell me he's way better. Are you sure? And I look at that and just get pretty glum. But we'll see. We have 2 months. 2 months, 8 games left to go. So, bear down. Go beat the Packers, I guess. That's about where we're at. Catch you soon.